Welcome back to another episode of Local History, where today we go in search of the Clayton Lion, or should I say the Lost Brewery, which is found between Shelf and Clayton. In today's video we commence at the Lion's Gate on Pontage Lane, which is point A on the route map. In these old images we get a rare insight into the brewery built by J and H.S. Hirst circa 1868. The Hirst family are a long-standing textile worsted family who moved from Bottomleys in 1613, purchasing much of the land around here known as the Brightwater Estate. Sadly, Brightwater House has been demised, but Low Farm, built circa 1850, together with Westwood House, Henry Sager's home with the ornate staircase, still remain standing. The Lion's Gate is a Grade 2 listed building, and its context depends on which point in time we look at it. It is referred to as the back or south entrance of the demolished brewery, but would have been the main coach road to the mansion house prior to its demise. The house was originally called Brightwater's and was rebuilt in 1868. Welcome folks, Wildlife Ranger here on YouTube. Welcome to my channel on a cracking day in the start of June. We're here on a search for the Clayton Lion. Now I hear you say the odds of finding a lion in Clayton and Shelf are that big, but think again. So folks, we are here at Pontage Lane in Shelf, and this chap directly above my head has been here for more than 150 years. This local landmark is known as the Lion's Gate, and it would have been the back entry to the old brewery that existed directly opposite it in 1850, which was owned by Joseph and Henry Sager Hirst. Today we're going to follow that trail on the trail of the Clayton Lion in an area of land walked by many people from Clayton, Queensbury and Shelf, and we'll be looking at clues on the landscape for this historic brewery. Before we look at the road footage, just a very quick potted history on the Hirst family. They moved to Low House from Bottomleys in 1618, and they were pioneers of the worsted trade in Clayton. They purchased an estate called Brightwater's in 1628 to the south of Clayton, and Thomas and Jane had 3 sons, Joseph Hirst, who died in 1890, and Henry Sager Hirst, and they both started a brewing business together at Low House from 1851, trading as Messrs J and H.S. Hirst. Henry Sager Hirst was a colonel in a volunteer regiment known as the 3rd West Yorkshire Rifle Engineers, or the Bradford Rifles, and a philanthropist playing a role in the early Unitary Development Council at Clayton before merger to Metropolitan Councils. Henry Sager, who lived from 1829 to 1899, built a large house close to the former Low Farm, known as Westwood House. The Low House Brewery was sold in 1892 to Bentley's Brewery, and Westwood House was purchased by Bradford Council for the use of a hospital, the land and other property being gifted. The house has 2 ornate gable ends. In today's episode we are providing you with a route map and various waymarks should you also want to explore the area. Today's trek, commencing from point C on Soper Lane to point D, which conveniently enough is the Old Dolphin Pub, at point D on Highgate Road in Clayton, is approximately 1.6 miles or 2.6 kilometres in a one-way direction. In our trek, we will be looking at some of these features on the landscape. When approaching Low Farm from Soper Lane, please circumnavigate it in an anti-clockwise direction and respect the privacy of the residents. When approaching Low Farm at the point L, you will notice hillocks and uneven land, and it is likely the site of the demolished brewery, although when it was demolished and exactly where is unclear. The following are significant landscape changes. The 1619 family home would have been demolished and rebuilt in 1868 at the same time of the brewery construction. However, the 1868 rebuild was demolished and it's unclear when. Likewise, the brewery, which was built in 1868, also reached its demise when it was sold in 1892, and it's unclear as to how long it persisted and when it was demolished. The following sequences of old maps document some of the building changes on the landscape, notably the building of Henry Sager's house, Westwood House, in Westward Park. It is also interesting to note the demise of the two reservoirs, Percy Reservoir and Horton Top Reservoir, which were built in 1871 and 1873 and demised circa 1999. Towards his latter years, Henry Sager Hirst lost interest in managing the brewery, and it was sold in 1892 to Bentley's Breweries of Leeds, predominantly for the value of the 38 tied houses, which were the likely principal value lay. The tied houses or pubs were sold or transferred were as follows. A relatively small number of these pubs and inns still persist on the landscape of Bradford, and many of these pub names may be familiar to those of a certain vintage. Bentley's operated as a successful brewery up until 1968 when it was bought out by Whitbread. Whitbread in their own right ceased trading in Woodlesford in 1982, and the site was cleared in Leeds by 1989, bringing a long era of brewing to an end. On the way around, we make a few observations on our waymarks, notably the unusual Canon Bollards that we see along the route. It's unclear if these waymarks were put there by the Hirst estate, but it's more likely, given that the site is surrounded by 3 unitary development councils, that these bollards demarcated different council boundaries. If you know what these unusual structures are, or make any interesting observations on your journey, please leave a comment. Hi, the purpose of this little video clip is just to give you the option of going forward over to Low House and Blackshaw back from Soper Lane. As you can see in the background, you have Soper Lane to my right, running to my left, and there's a public footpath going straight ahead, which you can enter as an alternative to going in at the Lions Gate end at Shelf. So, Soper Lane, in point of fact, if you come through the Ginnell further up, you can walk this footpath from Cooper Lane, cross the road, come across and start your walk from here. Obviously Cooper Lane has much better parking than this small lane. Okay, so we're at another waypoint on our little trail. This waypoint is just directly in front of Bracken Edge farm, which is behind me, and this is the footbridge across. When we come to this waypoint, you can see a couple of little features, none the least this Canon Bollard, which we've looked at before, and it's directly in front of another snicket that takes you down onto the little river, Blackshaw Beck, which this footbridge and the coach road further up crosses. So the footbridge crosses Blackshaw Beck. We have this cast iron bollard, which is known as a Canon Bollard. Very, very sturdy stuff. It's obviously there as a waymark, although potentially, because of its construction, you could quite easily tether a horse on this bevel. So, as I say, this is a waymark that you can choose to use if you come in from the Soper Lane entrance, and the farm directly behind us is the Bracken Farm. So all part of the same trail, which you can choose to have two routes to use. Okay folks, so we're on one of the waypoints on the route that we have used to look at this old brewery exploration, and as you can see, we've stumbled upon these very ornate bollards, which are termed Canon Bollards. They are very, very, very solid cast iron. There's this large one here, and the one the other side of this gate, which is grown over with vegetation. but they are very, very solid things indeed. And what is interesting and amusing is these two smaller bollards, which are mushroom-like in their appearance, and as to why they're here and who put them here, we shall do a little bit more research. But it looks to me as if they were either put in by the estate of Joseph and Henry Hirst, or if they were not, they would have been put in by Clayton Council in days gone by. So we'll be taking a closer look at these three things throughout the course of the video. But we are pretty much on the site of the old 1850 brewery, and the area directly behind me will be part of Low Farm, which was rebuilt by the Hirsts when the brewery came to an end here circa 1850, and it lay derelict up till about 1890, where the Hirsts actually sold that brewery to the Bentley's Breweries of Yorkshire, which would have been known as Yorkshire Breweries. And in turn, in the 80s, that was actually bought out by another brewery company. So, Wildlife Ranger here. We're at the gates of Low Farm, and this road here would have gone all the way through to the old brewery. The little gates to the left here, the left of me, those were likely going to go to the old Low House, which has since been demolished, and that runs off at an angle like that. So what we have before us are the gate pillars of the old brewery, which was demolished in 1850, and the farm was rebuilt on that site. And Henry Sager Hirst, who was the Lieutenant Colonel in the reserve armies of that day, moved over that way to build a house known as Westwood House, which Bradford Council subsequently bought to become the Westwood Hospital. But what we have before us at this waymark on our little brewery trail is the gate pillars of the old Hirst brewery, which was demised circa 1850 and was then sold to a brewing company called Bentley's Brewery, which was known as the Yorkshire Brewery Company, and then was subsequently itself in the 1980s taken over. So it had a long history of brewing. But this particular site was demised in the 1850s, and it's the very subtle clues on the landscape that we are looking for. So here we have the gate pillars to the Low Farm, and here we would have had the entrance to the old Low House, which would have been the manor house that the Hirsts first lived in when they moved from Batley in 1617. Low Farm was built in 1850 and currently occupies the site at the moment. There we go. If you have liked or enjoyed this video or found it interesting or educational, please subscribe to the channel so we can bring you more in the local history series. Thank you very much for watching.